so you can hear me, all right? For the moment, anything racist or even close to racism is said, all right? Let me finish. For the moment, anything gets anything close to that, all right? People are going to start getting arrested. It's just a verbal warning to let you know we're all on the same page. That's all it is.
Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. I would say in response to that video with London's Metropolitan Police from over the weekend to just imagine what it would be like living in a country where you could be threatened with arrest and called a borderline racist for merely flying the flag of your own country on your own country's soil. But then I remember that we live in America and we're quickly getting to that point, so we don't really need to imagine all that hard. But as always, the UK has its beat because they were already there, where young men flying St. George's Cross, which dates back to the Middle Ages and which forms the basis for the British Union Jack flag today, can be singled out by police, whereas pro-Hamas protesters flying Palestinian flags, i.e. foreign flags of a hostile regime, are not only tolerated but celebrated, as you see in the same clip by those protesters around the young men not being threatened with arrest by the cops for their flags or for their signs. Now, just as a quick aside about the Union Jack, the St. George Cross of England and Wales is overlaid with the cross saltire of St. Andrew, patron saint of Scotland, and the cross saltire of St. Patrick, patron saint of Ireland, to create the iconic red, white, and blue design that we know today. Altogether, they make up the Union Jack, which even flies over American soil to this day in the form of the Hawaiian state flag, if you take a look in the top corner. The more you know, right? Anywho, what does it matter, I guess, since we're run by globalist leftists who spit at tradition because it gets in the way of their technocratic, transhumanist view of progressivism, which calls for us to be replaced by those who are still very much defined by their religion, culture, and tradition and want to supplant ours. England is just a conquered nation in that regard. An Englishman of today is far more likely to dogpile mercilessly on a Christian street preacher, calling him a bigot, as being some vile retrograde, than they are to say even a word of criticism to these foreign imams at these pro-Hamas rallies, spewing all sorts of anti-Semitic rhetoric and wanting to subvert Christian churches into mosques and wipe Israel off the map. Again, unconquered peoples. Now, while we may not be at the point of having counter-protesters in America threatened with arrest for waving American flags, we do have something even more heinous, and that is the long, ugly tradition of poor drivers getting swarmed by potentially dangerous left-wing protesters. In this case, it's an elderly man in Minneapolis, Minnesota, who appeared extremely confused when the streets he was driving on over the weekend became blocked off by protesters holding the literal Hamas flag, which is green with white Arabic words written on it. One video even captures the man crying inside of his car, probably afraid to become the next Reginald Denny. And if you defend yourself, like Army Sergeant Daniel Perry did, you'll go to prison. Talk about a lose-lose scenario. The elderly man appears on camera to get out of his car at one point, but then was forced back inside when the mob kept attacking him by kicking at his car and looking like they were trying to break his windows. He eventually was able to speed off without being killed or hurting anyone else. But far-left psycho Minneapolis City Council candidate Zach Metzger posted a video of the driver online and asked for help from his rabid followers to track the poor man down. He has since deleted his post. One witness called 911 and claimed that shots had been fired, and even the founder and director of Mint Press News lied to accuse the elderly victim of mob violence of having shot into the crowd, trying to act like he deserved it. Authorities have found no evidence that any shot was fired or the man was even armed. So it's far more likely that in the chaos, someone mistakenly thought there was gunfire. The situation reminds me of one my next guest was in recently. His watchdog group sent out a truck around the campus of Harvard to expose the students who signed a letter blaming Israel for the terror attack perpetrated by Hamas, which claimed an estimated 1,400 lives. And what happened next is about what you would expect from the mostly peaceful crowd. Joining us now to discuss is Adam Gillette, the president of Accuracy Media. Adam, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So you had a hired digital billboard bearing box truck drive around campus Harvard on Friday, and it turns out students didn't really like it too much, and so someone threw a brick into the window. Can you tell us what happened that day?
You know, it was a madhouse all week that week at Harvard. I arrived on Thursday, and the moment I got there, I was looking for our truck. I finally found it surrounded by a mob of protesters, including one woman who was pounding furiously on the driver's side window, and I thought our driver was going to be terrified. Of course, when our cameraman took out the camera and aimed it at them, and when I took my mic and put it in the face of the rebels, they the cockroaches they were. And to her credit, the young black woman who was our driver, when we rolled down the window, she was laughing it off. That woman was tough as nails.